Today we are taking on a deep dive into a philosophy that was, well, forged in the very crucible of human suffering.
It really was.
We're talking about the extraordinary life of Holocaust survivor Eddie Jaku, a man known very late in his life as the happiest man on earth.
Which is a title that just carries immense weight when you understand his history. I mean, Eddie Jaku survived Auschwitz and Buchenwald.
Unimaginable.
He spanned a century of just immense loss and horror. And our sources today, they look beyond the memoir of survival itself. They really focus on the decades after liberation.
Right.
So the central question we're tackling is, well, it's profound. How does one consciously choose joy and hope and connection when the world has given you every single reason to just embrace despair?
And that's the mission here.
Yeah.
This is not just a history lesson. It's really a blueprint for resilience.
It is.
We've distilled 7 core principles from Eddie Jaku's teachings that reveal how he transcended that trauma to find deep, lasting meaning. We're going to unpack these tools for making life beautiful, even when things seem utterly broken.
So let's start at the absolute beginning in, the worst conditions imaginable. The foundation of his survival was what he termed a conscious decision to choose hope.
Right. And this wasn't some, fluffy, abstract emotion.
No, not at all. It was a psychological lifeline he had to manufacture every single day in the concentration camps.
And the sources provide such a visceral example of this. When Eddie and his friend Kurt were at rock bottom, exhausted, starving Kurt, suggested they go to the wire.
Which was, for prisoners, the grim, silent phrase for suicide. The electrified fence.
Yeah.
And Eddie's refusal, it was just this act of extreme mental defiance. He said no. He insisted that they had to cling to the sheer possibility, however minute, that tomorrow might be better.
That one small daily rejection of despair.
Yeah.
That was the first principle. What's fascinating here is how that hope translated into these very practical, physical acts of kindness, these tiny, beautiful, daily rituals that really sustained their sanity.
Exactly. You see this powerful reciprocity. They would meet every single morning just to share their meager soap rations.
Which is just a symbol of civilized life, right? Of cleaning.
Absolutely. And to offer emotional reinforcement. But the detail that truly captures the strength of their bond is the hidden cache.
This art is amazing.
They would hide these tiny, invaluable presents for each other. A scrap of cloth, a little toothpaste, a piece of soap behind a loose brick in the toilet wall.
I just cannot imagine the psychological strength needed to maintain that daily ritual under those horrific conditions. It's like creating a micro-safe space.
It absolutely is. It proved that despite the environment, they still had agency. They could still give. Which brings us directly to the power of a single, sustaining friendship. The second principle.
Kurt Hirschfeld.
Kurt Hirschfeld. He wasn't just a companion, he was the physical manifestation of Jaku's chosen hope.
Their bond was so crucial, starting in Buchenwald and then continuing through Auschwitz. The survival was mutual.
Totally mutual. If one was injured or too sick to stand, the other would actively risk punishment to find extra food or help him move.
Eddie's own quote makes the case perfectly. He says, "Without Kurt, I wouldn't have made it half that far. We kept each other alive."
And this commitment, it didn't end with the war. That's a key part of the story. They joyfully found each other in a refugee canteen in Brussels.
Wow.
Shared an apartment and rebuilt their lives side by side. Their relationship really illustrates that investing time in just one profoundly reciprocal, sustaining bond can be the practical engine, not just for recovery, but for profound long-term well-being.
Okay, so if internal resilience and chosen connection were the bedrock, let's shift our focus to the external lifelines that appeared. What about the human compassion that occasionally pierced through all that darkness?
Well, Eddie's experience is such a critical reminder that human decency can exist in all circumstances. And sometimes the smallest act of charity from a complete stranger can just reset your faith in the world.
We see this during his terrifying journey across France as a refugee. This is after he escaped the death march.
Right.
He was walking for months, sleeping rough, starving. He relied entirely on the kindness of strangers. In these small villages, families offered him shelter and food, knowing they risked death if the Nazi authorities caught them.
And the detail of the generous family is so poignant. He's exhausted. He knocks on a door in the early morning. A young girl brings him to her father, who, after giving him food, gave Eddie something intensely practical.
It wasn't just food.
No, proper shoes and clean clothing. And
Yeah.
in that moment, Eddie saw the potential for good in humanity renewed, despite everything he had witnessed.
That moment just underscores that kindness often needs to be practical, not just, emotional. Which brings us to a really fascinating third lifeline, his own skills, his education.
Right. He'd studied precision mechanical engineering in Germany.
And this is where adaptability and knowledge become literal lifesavers. When he arrived in Auschwitz, the Nazis needed skilled labor for their war machine.
And Eddie's technical skill set classified him as an economically indispensable Jew.
That designation, which hinged entirely on his ability to fix complicated machinery, saved his life multiple times. He was pulled out of lines heading toward the gas chambers in the nick of time because his expertise was deemed more valuable alive than dead.
And that led to the IG Farben assignment.
Yeah.
We need to be clear here. This was still slave labor.
Right.
Brutal, highly dangerous.
Yes.
But he was assigned to maintain the critical high-pressure air pipes for the factory. Now, this wasn't an easy job, but it was indoors, and crucially, it offered marginally better survival conditions than the back-breaking general labor that killed thousands.
So the lesson here isn't just go to school, it's that diversity of knowledge and adaptability. The ability to apply a skill set outside of its original context can provide completely unexpected practical advantages when your world collapses. That 1 degree saved his life.
Absolutely. Now, let's move inward again, because perhaps the most profound of his principles concerns the internal battle.
Preserving one's moral integrity.
Yeah, when everything, hunger, fear, depravity urges you to abandon it.
This is the immense philosophical struggle of maintaining your humanity under torture. Betty Jaku faced constant temptation to compromise his values just to survive the next day.
And the defining anecdote here is about the stolen bread. While starting, a condition we can barely even imagine, his meager bread ration was stolen. He knew he could have retaliated. He could have stolen from another weaker prisoner to replace it.
But he refused. He made the conscious decision that he would not survive if the cost was becoming an evil man to do it.
I mean, what an impossible choice to make. Physical survival versus spiritual survival.
Yeah.
It is. He stated clearly, I never hurt another prisoner, I never stole another man's bread, and I did all I could to help my fellow man. This adherence to his moral compass was not just about being good, it was about preserving his dignity, his self-respect, and ultimately his post-war identity.
He realized that the only thing the Nazis couldn't take from him was his ability to choose his own response.
Exactly. And if he had lost his humanity there, he likely wouldn't have been able to practice the next principle, the duty of sharing the story.
Which, at first, he couldn't do. He stayed silent for decades because the pain of losing nearly his entire family, his mother, father, cousins, it was just too overwhelming.
That trauma was absolutely paralyzing. He asked, when you lose your mother and father, all your aunties and cousins, almost everyone you have ever loved, how can you speak about it? The silence was self-protection.
But at a certain point, that pain transformed into purpose. He realized his survival wasn't accidental. It created a duty to educate the world about the dangers of hate and the necessity of hope.
In his public speaking career, it began quite humbly at a Catholic church. Eventually, he was speaking to thousands at massive events like TEDx.
What's important to grasp, I think, is that the ability to articulate that pain, that lesson, requires having preserved the moral clarity we just talked about. His clean moral slate gave him the authority to speak about humanity.
Yes. Processing that pain and sharing those positive lessons, whether through writing, speaking, or deep therapy, is what truly inspires resilience in others and creates profound healing connections.
Which brings us to the ultimate, crowning achievement of his philosophy. The principle that gave him his title, choosing happiness as the ultimate revenge.
This is defiance on the grandest scale, happiness as a tool of resistance. Eddie Jaku understood that the perpetrators sought not just his death, but the destruction of his spirit.
So by choosing joy, he denied them their ultimate victory.
He did. But choosing joy requires tremendous emotional labor, especially after that kind of loss.
So how did he rationalize that choice intellectually?
He rooted it in a specific, tangible event. He identified the exact turning point the moment he held his first child, Michael, in his arms. That overwhelming love crystallized the promise he made to himself.
A promise to be happy, polite, helpful, and kind for the rest of his life.
Yes, and his revenge wasn't about violence or even public condemnation, though he did the latter. His best revenge was, well, it was domestic and quiet.
I love this part.
He reflects on sitting at home in the evening, watching television with his beloved wife, Flor, enjoying a simple cup of tea and a biscuit. He called this quiet domestic joy really the best revenge, and it is the only revenge I am interested in to be the happiest man on earth.
That is truly profound. It reframes ordinary daily life as an act of resistance. To maintain this, he relied heavily on two things: daily gratitude,
Shifting focus from monumental loss to what he still possessed.
and critically, forgiveness.
And this is where the nuance is so essential. He didn't forgive for the sake of the perpetrators or to exonerate them. The sources clearly state that forgiveness was entirely for his own peace of mind.
Right. He refused to carry the burden of hate.
Recognizing that hate is a cancer that destroys the host first, by letting go, he cleared the space necessary to cultivate the positive relationships and the well-being he sought.
So looking back at this incredible arc, from the terror of the camps to decades of chosen joy, we see that Eddie Jaku's resilience was built not on luck, but on a layered foundation of conscious choices.
Hope, integrity, connection, the strategic use of knowledge.
And ultimately, the deliberate decision to choose joy as his final destination.
His final wisdom is really a gift to all of us, he said. Life can be beautiful if you make it beautiful. It is up to you.
Such a powerful statement.
It's an insistence that happiness is not a fate delivered by chance, but a choice you must make daily to find purpose and meaning, even in the shadow of great suffering.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought to reflect on, drawing specifically from Jaku's story. His technical engineering skills, which he developed early in life, literally saved him when everything else failed.
Right.
So given that power, how might embracing an entirely new skill set, perhaps one totally unrelated to your current career or interests, become your future lifeline or unexpected source of personal resilience?
And taking his core philosophy to heart, what is one small conscious choice of kindness or connection or gratitude that you can commit to today to honor his idea that happiness is in your hands? Think about that choice right now and make it happen.